The thing is, like, what's happening in the Republican Party right now is like actually like an even more serious schism, because basically everybody involved in conservative policy in DC under the age of 30 or 40 right now is a Nazi. Like, and I'm not saying that as a rhetorical gimmick or as like, you know, some sort of like hyperbolic satire. No, I mean that quite literally. And the schism that they're having, the thing with like Tucker Carlson and the Heritage Foundation and like whether they should deplatform him for doing an interview with Nick Fuentes is like, it's very clear that like the conservative movement under Donald Trump has made like their project essentially about like changing what it means to be an American to being something exclusively about race. That like being an American means being white. And the schism that they're undergoing right now is, are Jewish people included in that or not? Like, are we going to be an ethno-nationalist party that hates all religious and racial minorities except one? Or are we going to like be holistic in our approach here? And like, and then the question of where does the Zionist project get left in that calculation?
Well, this, I wouldn't say it's right now the exact same contradiction at the core of both parties, but for the Democratic Party up until Biden was inaugurated, it is kind of the same contradiction, right? Because the Republican like establishment, however you want to term it, they have now for the last 3 years, they have been trying to create a form of nationalism that is racist, but also philosemitic.
Yes.
Which it like, you know, if you can figure that one out, if you can hold that one together, you know, good luck. With Democrats, it was a similar thing, trying to create sort of like a maximalist social liberalism, right?
Yeah.
The kind that Beto offered in the primary, where it was like, you know, you would have Kamala's campaign using the same color scheme as the Wretched of the Earth and shit like that. But it was still
but like even more neoliberal and right wing economically.
But also as Zionist as ever.
Yeah,
probably
the
most Zionist administration in American history up until this one. It was both the same contradiction. The same contradiction was tearing both parties apart. It still sort of is tearing the Democrats apart in the sense that the base unanimously sees Israel as the genocide is just being unacceptable, and the party sees it as being like the one thing worth sacrificing over.
Yeah.
The Republicans, I don't know if they're quite as committed, but I mean, the money people are. So what are you going to do?
And this is also in light of Donald Trump. Did you see the clip of him this week where he was approving 600,000 H-1B visas for Chinese people to come to work in this country? And Megyn Kelly or whatever was just like, don't we have like smart, talented people here in America? And he was like, no, we don't. We don't have any, like, they're all stupid. We got nothing. You know what he said? He said, you don't. He didn't even say we. He said, you don't. You don't. They're all, you're all dumb pigs. And this is what I mean about like this in conjunction with like the Epstein emails, which are like just so damning. And like, as well as like that he was heralded to re-election this time based on the promise of like releasing the Epstein files and finally punishing Bill Clinton and John Podesta and sending all the pedos to prison. Like, remember all the J.D. Vance tweets from like 2021 where he was like, a bit odd that a sex trafficker connected to all the powerful people in government killed himself in prison, and then we never talk about that. Oh, odd. What could they possibly have to gain from covering up the disclosure of these files? It's just like, okay, J.D., all right, we see what's going on here. Like, come on. And like, because, you know, now he's not talking about it for obvious reasons, because the guy he works for and owes his entire political campaign to is like the chief fucking whoremonger of this child rape and blackmail ring.
I cannot wait for the JD run in 2028. I would go into cryo sleep right now. I feel like when I was a child anticipating Christmas at the start of December. Well, I think he's going to try to preempt the backlash, and he's going to go, yeah, I actually get longhoused by my brownoid foid. All the time. I love it.
I mean, sort of like Alexander Dugin was responding to a tweet, and it said, someone said, the best thing Donald could do right now for the MAGA movement is fire all these advisors that are making him say all these stupid things. And,
I got the advisors.
And then Alexander Dugin retweeted that and said, the best thing Donald could do for the MAGA movement now is kill himself. And this is the first time I feel like, because obviously the death of MAGA as a political movement has been overstated many times, and like evidence of the failure of that is that he was fucking reelected president after all of this shit. But like now in this moment is the first time, like as I began this show, like my brain is like beginning to broach the question of like, is MAGA spent as a political force? Like it is like I think we are like the deference that the media has given him thus far. I think it's going to pass a sort of a point of no return, and everyone is going to like he's just going to be, as happened with every American president, as it happened with Joe Biden, is that like a certain level of unpopularity will be reached, and then everyone will now openly state, "Oh, this guy's senile. This guy, everyone hates this guy and blames him for their problems." But with Donald Trump, it's like, everyone's just going to admit that this guy is a blackmailed child sex predator who's also a very unpopular president. And like, look, whatever comes after it, I'm sure is going to be just as terrifying, if not worse. But like, I think you're beginning to see maybe the terminus of the MAGA political movement as a movement that is entirely dependent and only defined by what Donald Trump, who he is and what he says it is. And I think it's hitting a wall right now.
Yeah, and the first like 6 months after the election, it was clear that they were setting up for like a MAGA after Trump, trying to make this coherent, trying to assign like a set of permanent policy positions and ideals to where, logically in the future, someone could say that they are the inheritor of this mantle, even though Trumpism has always famously been very amorphous. Now, I mean, I get like going off past data, you would, if you were a Republican presidential hopeful, you would have to say that he did the best job of turning out people who Republicans have historically struggled with. People that they need to be even competitive in presidential elections. But he is, I mean, before these elections even, I thought that he has to be much more unpopular than people realize. But things actually exceeded what I predicted. I do not know how they reconcile him being radioactive. I mean, if we were going off the last instance of this, with all the last 3 presidential elections in America, the winner, no matter how slim the margin was, going, okay, the fact that I won is a vindication of me doing things how I want to do them all the time. They'll say, the polls are cocked. The polls were wrong in 2016. When we go to our rallies, everyone loves us. And it'll be like, the fall of Constantinople. They'll be doing this until there's like 10 people left in America who are behind this shit.
Felix, I mean, like we've talked before about how like Brandonization is the only path for any American president, and just seeing Trump walk the Brandon path. Have you followed like what he did this week with the affordability issue? Because right after Zoran won, he started doing all these tweets about how MAGA is all about affordability. And like, that's our issue now. And then within not even a day, he gets interviewed on Fox News or something about grocery prices or whatever. And he goes, it's made up. It's not real. And he's doing like the Will Stancil thing about how voters don't actually know what they feel about how tight their pocketbook is these days because the media is lying to them.
By the way, credit to the GOAT. Will Stancil is still doing that, even though Trump is president. He is so pot committed to this. I think that's awesome. I think it would have been so easy for Stancil to go, well, actually, now there is an affordability thing because of the inflation from tariffs. But he's like, nope, costs are great. Fuck you. I admire that. But I mean, do you? It's not quite the same thing, right? Because the remarkable thing with Biden was that the deep state and the media used the last bits of magic and juice that they had tug Brandon's corpse over the finish line and prevent his obvious senility from being an issue for the first year and a half of his presidency.
Yeah.
With Trump, the magic, the juice of the Con Inc. movement, that was already slipping away. They didn't quite have the same capital to spend as the deep state did. But I mean, I am thinking the same thing you are here, which is we have been here before. I'm thinking back to January of 2021, where it seemed like this was finished. DeSantis is the anointed next guy. They're going to revert to a sort of like zombie Tea Party thing with Mitt Romney characteristics. It's a little different now just by virtue of Democrats not controlling the executive branch. But gun to my head, I would say that like there is not a great future for this movement.
Well, I mean, it seems like, look, they can, at least they can read the room as it regards Israel and how the people of this country feel about it for whatever reason. But the thing is, like, all the energy on the right now is invested in a movement that sees their political, like their political project as one of like white people only. That like nationalism is about race, and like that there should be no place for non-white people in American society. And the thing is, at the end of the day, you still have to partake in the pretense of elections, and it's hard for me to imagine in America in 2025 that being a popular, that being a winning political message. I think that they were lying to themselves, and this. I think they're feeling betrayed now because they think like it's the same problem leftists always run into, where they're like the American system can't be reformed. Every time we get a hopeful new leader, it's just, it's meet the new boss, same as the old boss. And I think like they've been I think they told themselves in like the first year or so of this Trump administration that I think they were invested in the idea that we're finally doing it. He is going to end democracy in America and appoint himself like president for life and do away with like the pretense of representative democracy. Right up until the Charlie Kirk assassination and his reaction or non-reaction to it and how nonplussed he is about all of it, I think that they were thinking like that was the moment to do it. And they're seeing that he doesn't give a shit right now and has nothing but contempt for them and everyone like them. And like it's going to be interesting to see where that goes.
It reminds me a lot of the ex-Bernie, ex-Warren people, some of whom either matriculated into the Biden administration or otherwise sympathetic think tanks who, for the first 2 years of that, were trying to say technically he's the best, he's the most economically interventionist president since FDR.
Right, yeah. I just, I don't have too much more to say about this. Obviously, like I'm fascinated to see where this story goes, and like I said, how much longer Donald Trump as a political figure can like withstand this, or how much longer the project of American democracy can take this. Because like I thought the birthday card shit was like, I could not even believe that shit. But like to discover that there is level after level deeper to this shit, and that it is now just so out there in the public that like I don't know, maybe like the depressing answer is that like our system of government will just choke on along as it always has, despite these like the glaring fact now that like the guy in charge of it is like not only deeply compromised by like blackmail, but is just like a fucking rapist. Like I don't know where we go from that, but it's all not just him, but everyone else at the commanding heights of like finance, government, the media, like all of it, all the way down. Like I just don't know how much more of this we can take. I mean, maybe the answer is like we have a limitless capacity to keep taking it, but like it's quite, I don't know. It's just so jarring. It's so brazen. It's just so brazen. And like, for years it was like us, TrueAnon, like the sort of like the lefty like podcast and politics sphere. Like this is our province alone, and like this was our brand. And now it's just like, what does it mean that reality and like consensus reality has now been forced so violently into like having to belatedly come to terms with that?
Yeah. And we've never been believers, for as long as the show's been around. We've never been believers in the idea of like, if only people knew.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Then, blah, blah, blah. But this is different. We're not saying that this necessarily presages like a revolution or opens up a pocket dimension to 1976 where Frank Church becomes president and everything's better. But in previous,
Senator Wellstone, no, don't get on that airplane.
That was they absolutely killed him. I will, till the end of my life, I will say they killed Paul Wellstone. But even I feel safe in saying, even 10 years ago, this would cause mass resignations in the federal government. Like this would actually, if not meaningfully move American politics along, at least have a body count, Yeah,
exactly.
To see it resound in just the continued slow momentum.
The only body count so far is just Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah,
that's it so far. But who knows where this is going to go? And like, maybe the most depressing outcome is that like, just it will continue as a pace as it always has. People will begrudgingly just knuckle. People just begrudgingly be like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do about it?
That is what we predicted though. In our first post-election episode last year, that the future is just these two senile, bloated political projects just passing off the same flaming bag of shit to each other every few years.
But, as far as our, enemies or nemesises in the American media go, how much longer are they going to continue to be on TV and like talk about political issues or appoint themselves moral arbiters of the discourse? How much longer can that really go on at this point?
If you let these people go on TV and act like they represent like 60% of Americans after this, you should fucking kill yourself. You should have always killed yourself, but you should especially put a gun into your mouth and pull the trigger now.
Like, as we mentioned, it was not even, I feel like it was like a month or two ago that Ezra was like, when I think about the Epstein thing, I think like his life as a predator was probably kept entirely separate from all of his very highly influential and powerful friends in his circuit, and then never the twain shall meet. It's like, really?
Oh, I thought you were talking about the project that's been in place since the general election, which is just the mainstream media accepting that Trumpism was not just a fad, but overcorrecting to this point where it's just like the default in American politics. And all of this shit is normal. Killing like random fishermen is normal. All of this is fine. But that too, the fact that this won't even cause embarrassment among people who have like happily given softball interviews to Larry Summers and people like that is also like incredibly demoralizing.
Just 3 days ago, Larry Summers was calling for the alumni trustees of Harvard to intervene and take over the Harvard Crimson to change its editorial stance on BDS in Israel. Like, the nerve, I'm sure it's actually completely unrelated to the fact that they have a huge article out today about his, the fact that he was friends with this guy up until he was murdered. And he was still answering emails from him, like I said, 5 months before he fucking was found hanged in a jail cell. It's just like, what does that say about his fucking character or like his position as someone who can, impose a moral and like a moral and political sanction on the the student body of his institution for taking a moral stand on Israel that he disapproves of, that he can claim is outside the realm of polite opinion or considered thought in the Harvard student body. Just like, who are you, dude? We all people this has been open for so long now, but it is so undeniable now that it's going to, like I said, the interesting thing is going forward is to see how many of these people just continue like nothing happened and how much they're allowed to. I guess that will be telling.
Yeah. I doubt that we will ever see the CNNs of the world admitted the obvious too, that this was an Israeli intelligence.
Yeah, and that like maybe.
Do not hold your breath on
cognitive
that.
dissonance about like what the fuck is like, why is the relationship between the United States and Israel so weird? Like, as Bill Clinton said, who's the superpower here? Like the resolution to that, or the answer to that, seems to be like screaming in your face right now at this point, in terms of like all this shit. And it's like, is that going to get acknowledged? I don't know. We'll see. It may get to the point where they have to. I don't know. To preserve their future credibility going forward on other things, like at some point, like they're gonna have to saw off the ankle, like like the coyote trapped in a bear trap or whatever.